I make my way to the top, and I find myself standing on an island floating in midair on the edge of the void.
Audiences, I feel, are getting a little numb to the let's just throw a ton of visual effects in your face all the time, and really starting to become maybe a little bit more discerning and hungry for effects that really support story and create emotion.
It's impossible, but I'll do it.
David Cohen from Variety here. This is Artisans, and our guest this week is Kevin Baillie, visual effects supervisor for The Walk. In this film, director Robert Zemeckis takes us back 40 years to when the World Trade Center was new and Philippe Petit astonished the world by walking on a high wire strung between the Twin Towers.
Obviously, the biggest challenge of the show was recreating 1974 New York and the World Trade Center towers. Then they're kind of under a construction phase. New York these days looks absolutely 100% different from what it did back then, especially lower Manhattan in that area. And so a lot of the buildings we had to recreate completely from scratch.
New York in 1974 was a lot grimier than it is today. Both pollution was different, people were still burning more garbage and more coal. It was nasty.
The way the air looked in 1974 was something that we studied a lot in reference photography. And we actually developed a special system for when we were up that high where we could actually design not just the amount of haze that was in the air, but also tint the color of the haze as it kind of went further away from us. We actually took a helicopter up for about 2 days and captured reference all over New York. The thing that was totally unexpected that I came away with actually happened the moment that we first hovered right above ground zero. And I just remember looking down out of the side window of the helicopter and just being overcome with this amazing sense of awe that I was in this place, that this guy had done this walk without any safety gear, but also the sheer terror that I felt at that height. I mean, it's unbelievably high.
This isn't a game, Philippe. One mistake out there, and you're going to die.
Bob's marching orders to us on this were actually pretty simple. It needs to look 100% real, but it also needs to evoke a positive feeling about the towers. So it was really trying to depict people's memories of the tower and the way that they want to remember them, rather than being 1000% literal at every step.
In this film, you also have Joseph Gordon Levitt doing high wire.
He actually trained with the real Philippe Petit, who has the wire that they actually strung up between the Twin Towers in '74, still strung up in his front yard. He actually, on set, did walk the wire for real for a bunch of the shots. There's obviously stuff that is impossible to learn how to do in such a short amount of time. And so for those shots, we did digital face replacements. We actually created a completely computer-generated version of Joe's face and then transposed Joe's performance onto that digital version of his face and then stuck it on this amazingly talented wirewalking performer, Jade Kinder Martin, who did the hardest stuff. Planning out the walk sequence was, it was several weeks on stage, and all we had to work with was a 40-foot by 60-foot kind of corner of the tower that was about 12 feet high. We actually had a system on set that allowed Bob to have one monitor that was just what the camera was seeing, and then the other monitor had a real-time composite of a very kind of video game version of what the Twin Towers and the city below would look like. Bob actually prevised the entire movie about 7 years before it was made. It was really effective in conveying the sort of what the soul of the movie needed to be.
Voila, my dream.
And this is you?
Yes, it will be the most glorious high wire walk in history.
And it's almost like, the best funerals where you're actually celebrating what was there, and you're not talking about, 9/11 and this and that and the other that happened, and it's not until the very end where you realize it's like, man, those things aren't there anymore. It was really amazing working with Bob and seeing him be so respectful of the towers and what they meant, while also featuring them as a kind of a main character in the film.